It is difficult to talk about the postmodern history of America without serious reservations and adjustments. After all, there are an incredible number of prerequisites that led to dark times on the political stage for the United States. In part, this is what caused the complete collapse of democratic institutions and their subsequent transformation into what we know and use today. But let's highlight some of the most important milestones characteristic of this period. If you ask ChatGPT or Gemini in their old versions, 4.0 and 2.0, a strange question, which well-known figures were once inspired by philosopher Curtis Yarvin? You will get a rather interesting answer. This answer includes three particularly notable figures who are directly connected to the chaos currently unfolding in U.S. politics and economics. As you can see from the screenshots, the first person is Peter Thiel, one of the founders of the PayPal money transfer platform. The second is J.D. Vance, the current Vice President of the United States. And the third is Elon Musk, billionaire and founder of SpaceX, PayPal, and Tesla. Some may ask, so what? Many wealthy people today are interested in various philosophical movements. What's wrong with three influential individuals being drawn to certain philosophies? And we would absolutely agree, if not for one crucial detail. Curtis Yarvin adheres to neo-fascist views. In his speeches and literary works, which we will not promote, he advocates for the inequality of some people over others. Here is one of his statements. Equality is a myth. There are better and worse people. This is an obvious, albeit well-masked reference to racial, national, or social inequality. Yarvin also believes that authoritarian rule and corporate power, similar to feudal city-states, are far superior to what he sees as an unviable democracy. He proposes replacing democracy with a corporate monarchy where the ruler has absolute power, like a CEO of a company. We need a government run like a startup, by a single person who is truly accountable and can make decisions. This clearly echoes the fascist concept of a douche leader with unlimited power. The so-called philosopher does not forget to search for enemies among the elites. He describes the cathedral as an informal network of liberal elites, media, universities, bureaucracy, who supposedly control society. This is reminiscent of conspiracy theories typical of fascism, where elites were accused of undermining a healthy society. They think they rule you for your own good, but in reality, they just want to maintain their power. As we know, the idea of a Jewish Masonic conspiracy was widely popular with a certain historical figure we all remember well, Hitler. Although Yarvin does not call himself a fascist, his philosophy has clear overlaps with fascist ideology, the cult of leadership and rejection of democracy, the vertical power structure and suppression of opposition, elitism and denial of equality, the search for enemies among the liberal elite. So why have we paid so much attention to an almost unknown philosopher who is popular only in very narrow circles within California? The answer is quite simple. If your audience consists of ordinary people who can only write on social media or hold placards in solo protests, demanding some mythical freedom, which they already fully possess, then at most they will simply be considered odd individuals with psychological deviations. It's a completely different story when billionaires with vast amounts of money and resources are the ones listening to your speeches, which carry the scent of overt fascism. In that case, the possibility of your ideas becoming reality is only a matter of time. This seems to be exactly what happened with Yarvin. There are many rumors that, at the dawn of his career as a blogger and philosopher, Curtis crossed paths with Peter Thiel at some of the events organized by him. Discussing some of his ideas and reaching a mutual agreement on their views on life and political structures, the philosopher and the billionaire began to maintain closer contact. From then on, Yarvin became a welcome guest at events hosted by the billionaire. Later, J.D. Vance, then still a U.S. Senator from Ohio and author of Hillbilly Elegy, joined this marginal group. He was linked to the broader New Right movement, whose ideas overlap with Yarvin's, particularly in their criticism of liberal democracy and administrative bureaucracy. Peter Thiel introduced him to Yarvin as a promising politician and an active follower of their shared ideology. These meetings likely took place in locations where the busy schedules of these four so-called revolutionaries allowed them to gather discreetly away from prying eyes. It is evident that during one of these meetings, a serious conversation took place about the future of the American state and the recognition of its current structure as unsustainable. As a joint decision, and with the financial backing of Peter Thiel and a few other wealthy sponsors, they decided to put forward their own puppet candidate in the 2024 elections and completely dismantle the existing governmental system of the United States, along with its bureaucratic apparatus. It is unclear exactly when Elon Musk joined this circle, but he had been noted for his ultra-right remarks since around 2022. There is reason to believe that the planning for the dismantling of democracy was carried out by these four individuals 2 years before the election. Yes, this group had a lot of money. The only question was how to win the election. To achieve this, they decided to put forward a well-known puppet candidate who would be supported by the majority of society. This person needed to be moderately charismatic, utterly unprincipled, capable of lying to people's faces, promising voters all sorts of benefits or grand reforms that, in the end, would obviously never be implemented. Donald Trump turned out to be the perfect figurehead for this scheme. During his previous presidency, he had already gained popularity among certain marginal segments of society. Now his task was to earn the trust of the entire middle class. Considering how weak the Democrats were at the time, this wasn't expected to be a major challenge. A blatantly weak and feeble President Biden, dubious values promoted on every television screen, all of this played a cruel joke on left populist politicians. Peter Thiel had funded Donald Trump's election once. Now he was about to do it a second time. We can already see the results. A complete victory for outright degenerates in the absolute lawlessness perpetrated both domestically and on the foreign policy stage by figures such as Trump, Musk, Vance, and other oligarchs who preferred to remain in the shadows. Completely idiotic tariffs on Canadian goods, open hostility towards Europe, refusal to help Ukraine during the war, support for dictatorships like Putin's regime. All of this is what Americans received within just a month of the orange-haired puppet of Peter Thiel and Curtis Yarvin. The situation created by Donald Trump's actions, both in foreign policy and within the U.S., was not a result of incompetence. It was a deliberate demolition of the entire system that upholds the American state. A conspiracy of ultra-right neo-fascists aimed at completely dismantling traditional democratic institutions and handing power over to corporations and oligarchs. Without radical action from law enforcement and intelligence agencies at the highest levels of the U.S. government, the situation would have been nearly impossible to salvage. That is why, through coordinated efforts, special divisions of the FBI and CIA managed to arrest the conspirators. Donald Trump, Vance, and Elon Musk were convicted of treason and sentenced to life imprisonment. Peter Thiel fled to China, but was later mysteriously assassinated there. The details of his death remain undisclosed. Curtis Yarvin was committed to a psychiatric institution with no possibility of appeal. But this was only the beginning of the chaos that was about to unfold. Global corporate wars and the foundation of the first crypto states, these topics will be discussed in our next lecture. God save the unity.